Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome back to Collector Arthouse. Uh, Arthouse. So, one of my goals for the channel when I set this up and when I really started getting into sorcery in the early days is that I wanted to really explore the history and the development of the game. I think it's really cool, to document this. There's a few channels and a few people in Magic the Gathering who really have done a phenomenal job covering the history of Magic, and it becomes more and more important and interesting as time goes on. And in the latter years of the game, we're now 30 years into Magic, but we're at the very beginning of Sorcery, right? So I thought it'd be pretty cool to really document like the early developments. Even we're at a very exciting time in the life cycle of Sorcery. It's March 25th, 2023, as I'm recording this. And the game's about to debut. Maybe within a month or two, we'll probably have alpha in our hands. And there's been several years of development leading to this point, and a lot of interesting things that I've been able to unearth and uncover from talking with company employees, friends of the company, people in the community, and a lot of the artists as well. I've told a lot of the artist stories. But the development history is pretty fascinating, and it's really fun getting in from the ground floor as an early adopter and to kind of document that roadmap along the way as we unearth all these findings and the great depth and interesting development and design ideas that have transpired over the course of the game. So in this video, I wanted to take it all the way back to early 2021 timeframe, about first week or two of January 2021. It was very early days of the game, and there was I think the company's only social media presence was the Facebook page. They have a company business page type setup, a couple thousand followers there currently, and maybe a Twitter account, right? So the Facebook page was really where the very early adopters, people that somehow heard of this game early on, started being able to engage with the company. And Eric was sharing old early era photos, and even the name of the game itself was unsettled. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about at this time. So obviously the game is called Sorcery Contested Realm, right? But in that early January time frame, he asked the community about the name itself. So Sorcery was one of the ideas. There was also the concept of Atlas and the concept of Avatar. And a name potential from one of those three things: Sorcery, Avatar, and Atlas. All right, and I'm going to switch to my desktop view, and then I'm going to show some things from my overhead cam. So let me put this aside for a moment. The first image I wanted to show you is the three options, right? So as I say, the three potential candidates were Sorcery, Contested Realm, but as you see here, for Sorcery, the early concept for the card back, and now this has been consistent throughout. This is the artwork from Francesca Beraldi, great Italian artist and cartographer. This is beautiful, really ornate, gilded kind of card back for the spell book, and then what has evolved is a more of a map type illustration for the Atlas cards, and then she also did the token back, right? So early on, this was the sorcery option. Something interesting here, when I show some actual cards, we're going to see the difference between sample cards, early development cards, as you're seeing on the screen, sample cards, and the alpha precon cards, which I now have in hand. And we can look at the kind of comparison and evolution of the name of the game. All right, so the card back showed Sorcery, a realm at war, and now when I show it, you'll see it's Sorcery Contested Realm. All right, so that was the first option. One of the other choices was Avatar. So there was some thought. Some people were chiming in and saying, Sorcery Contested Realm, that sounds maybe a little too derivative of Magic the Gathering. The three-word kind of like similar cadence and the hyphenated Sorcery Contested Realm, Magic the Gathering. But it does draw a lot of inspiration from that. So a lot of people had that nostalgia, and that's also kind of like a plus in some ways, right? So we had Sorcery Contested Realm. The other option was Avatar, and again, a realm at war, right? Which is pretty cool, while the name was unsettled. I thought that was pretty interesting to see that little banner there at the top. But, a few people were chiming in and saying, we have the movie Avatar. Maybe there's some other games with that name. I'm not quite sure. But that wasn't really like a popular option. I think one thought was Avatar of Realms is what it could have been, which is pretty cool. But again, Sorcery wanted to be unique and be its own thing. And I think the coupling of the recent movie, which was a huge blockbuster hit, so to speak, was a bit problematic, right? So the third option was to play off of this idea of the Atlas. So here you have Atlas, a realm at war, once again, right? And what's also interesting about this is you see the kind of vertical portrait style format of the Atlas, which I pointed out in, what was it, my second Alpha Precon deck box opening. I showed the beautiful Humble Village by Andrea Modesti. I have the original painting for that. And I noticed on Andrea Modesti's website that he had that same artwork, or very similar, in a portrait style format, this vertical format like this. So I asked him about that, and he said yes, originally he had painted it like that. And there's some examples that Jeff Menges had as well. He had a painting that was initially, it was the Aqueduct painting, was initially vertical and then was redone in like a horizontal landscape style for the new Atlas, which is in that format, right? So early on, the art commissions were starting in 2018 timeframe. So up until like 2020, maybe 2021, there was like this vertical idea of the Atlas, the sites that you play in the game, and then that evolved into the landscape mode. Some of those paintings were redone, some were just being freshly commissioned. But you had this thought or this idea of this vertical or portrait style card back, and here you see it, Atlas. So it could have been Atlas, a realm at war, potential name. And then again, some people were saying, well, there's other games called Atlas. And, for whatever reasons, the company settled on Sorcery Contested Realm, which is cool and epic. And that's what it is now. All right, so those were the three choices. Again, this was back in early 2021 era. This was still kind of being toyed around with. And Eric was active in the community, soliciting feedback. And then what I'll do now is go to the overhead cam. And just hold that thought here, guys. Let me go back real quick and show you, again, the Sorcery, a realm at war, right? And now we'll see the differences from how that has presently evolved, okay? So what I'm going to do here, let me put this aside. I have a few things that I can show, all right? And, actually, before we get into the present state of the game, I do have one additional historical relic. And kudos to my good friend Vincent. I won't give his last name, but Vincent is a moderator in my Sorcery Contested Realm community Facebook group, and also in the Sorcery Contested Realm marketplace that we recently stood up as an open marketplace for everyone to list, buy, sell, trade, and do exactly that: buy, sell, trade, realize your collection goals and your gameplay goals. Right? You build those decks and have a variety of options to play. All right, so he sent me this, and really impressive. He did this great packaging. I'm going to zoom in here. He's a super creative guy, super nice and generous. And we discovered a community member. He joined my Collector Arthouse Discord, and he was like, hey, I helped out with the project early on, and I think he did some of he's like a creative type, and he did a lot of the type line text early on and consulted in that capacity. And he was like, hey, very early on, there was actually even a very different name and card back. And in the early days of commissioning, I also discovered this while I was getting to know the artist. I built a lot of great friendships with artists that I really, cherish and appreciate, and just huge fans of their work. And the artists were talking about how the game was known as Project Atlas very early on, before the game was able to formally declare that this was going to be coming to market via Kickstarter. So funny thing, I was actually on Adam Burke's Facebook page. He's one of the early artists as well, and he only knew the name Project Atlas. So he had mentioned something, and he was kind of difficult to get a hold of, and I just kind of chimed into one of his message threads on Facebook, and I was like, hey man, what's going on with Sorcery? And he was like, Sorcery, what's that? He didn't even know what it was. It was just hilarious. He only knew it as Project Atlas, and he didn't even realize the game had changed and evolved, and just goes to show how long it's been in development and how long it took to get to market. So I kind of broke news to him that the game was called Sorcery Contested Realm, which is pretty hilarious. But I'm getting off tangent here. I wanted to thank Vincent for sending this to me. Oh, that's upside down. He sent me this very nice message. I hope you enjoy those cards as much as I do. Keep up your amazing work in growing the best TCG community ever. Thank you very much, man. Very touching message. You got impeccable, incredible handwriting. Really impressive. You know I use labels for my pack breaks and things because you don't want to see me write. It's not going to look like this. But that was a very nice message from my good friend Vincent. Wanted to give him a shout out. And he sends me this box, just super creative. He somehow got this, this was like an early design of what the Sorcery booster box would look like. And, I actually made a suggestion to Eric in the Discord well over a year ago, very early on. And I was like, maybe this card in the middle should be the Sorcerer as kind of like, the Sorcerer, the face of the game. Another beautiful artwork by Francesca Berald. And he liked the idea, and he actually ended up changing that. And I think he changed some of the other neighboring cards there that are shown on the booster box image. So it's cool to have, like, a hand in the game in some respect. Small part, but that's what we're going to see on the alpha boxes, which is super cool. All right, so when you open this up, and it's kind of magnetized, so it's very nice. He has a card here, and then Vincent made a couple like postcard type things. Very nice. He's been sending out to people as he's been dealing with the community and whatnot, and some links to collectorarthouse.com, which is the site I run. So he ordered this from Melissa Benson. You can order these from Melissa on Zazzle. Which is really beautiful. So he sends this out. This is a cool idea. As you're sending stuff to the community, making deals, making trades, get the artwork out there. You could go purchase these from Melissa. She receives the proceeds. Again, it's at Zazzle, and there's a barcode on where to go order. And it looks gorgeous, right? Those are one of the, early on it was called the gems. Now it's called the core cards. So the name changed, right? And then here you have Tony Sudlow's King of the Realm. Nice little message. Can you guess which artist Tony Sudlow drew inspiration from to paint his masterpiece, King of the Realm? Which is really cool because I did a behind the art feature on that after talking with Tony. I've had a lot of awesome conversations with Tony. He told me a lot about the history and the context of his art compositions. And if you go to collectorarthouse.com, that's the barcode. You might actually be able to screenshot that and scan it. You see the Collector Arthouse in the middle, my logo. And you can go to collectorarthouse.com, behind the art features, and you'll find out the answer. Or you can just inspect it, take a look at some art history books, and try to figure it out yourself. So that's pretty cool. And then on the back, he has the Sorcerer, and again, some community links to my Discord and Facebook. So thank you very much, Vincent. Great supporter, great friend. Really appreciate it, man. So 2 cards, right? And here it is. So Spellcraft, right? I don't know that this has ever been seen publicly outside of my Discord. And you got to join the Collector Arthouse Discord, guys. We break a lot of news there. There's a lot of people like me that have been super passionate about the game from early on and have been delving into the history and different resources and community members and uncovering the history of this game. So you got to follow this channel. You join my Discord, Sorcery Contested Realm community group. So I share a ton of content, ton of information between those 3 forums, and they're always linked in these videos. So please join us. So here you go, Spellcraft, yet another concept very early on, and it's the same Francesca Berald gilded border and artwork here. But the color saturation, the color values are very different. And this is actually just a print to play, local printed. It wasn't printed by the Chinese factory that they settled on for alpha. But it's just a really cool relic and historical thing in this game. So Vincent sent this to me. Again, thank you, man. This is really cool, to keep in my collection as a historian of this game. Really precious gift. And you have Lindsay Krumet's gorgeous ancient dragon, which is I'm really glad you sent me this one because as I'm sure you're well aware because I've said it a lot, the ancient dragon was one of those artworks that really captured my imagination and really helped me fall in love with sorcery immediately. I loved Lindsay's ancient dragon. That's my favorite artwork from her personally. And then also the Seer by Dan Seagrave was another one that I was like, man, this game is pretty legit, and this artwork is second to none in my opinion. So there you go, the Spellcraft card. This is really cool how he packaged that. Very creative guy. You just pull this tab and whoop, comes right up in his one-touch Ultra Pro magnetic case. So that's really cool too. And I can save that away. And then this one, he somehow came up with this seal from Melissa Benson's gem that we saw, right? And you pull this up, and this kind of just slid right out with the card. I kind of hosed it up because I was looking at this. So it was secured down, but it was constructed in such a way that this slid right out And now I got to shimmy it out because I messed it up, right? But this is kind of like glued to the container somehow. And here you see that first taste of change, right? So this again is a very, very early edition card that I think it was just locally printed, and this is what the team and people working for the company were playtesting with very early on, right? So these are two very historical relics, which I consider kind of like the Gamma cards in Magic the Gathering, where they were just locally printed and they were testing out the game design and developing it, and it's super interesting, right? So this says Spellbook, that's what we see in the final version of the cards, and Sorcery Contested Realm instead of a Realm at War. All right. And then this, when I saw this, my eyes exploded out of my face because this is Francesca's absolutely amazing classic relic, Eric's Curiosa. Obviously one of Eric's favorite cards in the game because it's Eric's Curiosa. It's the namesake of the company. It's got his name in it. And it's just super cool to see that very early version. And you see it's kind of like rough around the edges because it was play tested with, So some really interesting, rich history there. I'm going to set this aside, put that back in there. And then what we'll do is let's go to a sample card, all right? So I got two sample cards here. I have the Vantage Hills by Jeff Menges, and I have Drew Tucker's Entangled Terrain. All right, because I wanted to show you an atlas and a spell book to compare to what we just saw. All right, so if I pull this out, Entangled Terrain, excuse me. All right, so here we have it. Sorcery Contested Realms Spellbook, just like that last version we saw that came after Spellcraft. All right, and again, it says Contested Realm. It used to say a Realm at War in the early 2021 era. All right, so set that aside. Okay, so there's your spellbook card. Then you have an atlas card. I'm going to slide this out, Jeff's beautiful Vantage Hills, and look at the back there. So we saw in vertical portrait format, and again, I can toggle. Let me scroll over back here. So Sorcery, a Realm at War. The atlas card, was in vertical portrait mode. And then if we go back to the sample card, we see the Francesca Berald map of the world here, the realm, right? And what's also interesting here is that you see the different regional names, right? And people are asking in the Discord, will these regions hold up because they changed the name of a lot of cards? So you have Highland, you have Midland in the middle there, Firelands. So when you look at the one of Elvira Shakarova's cards is called Rimland Nomads, and it used to be called Fireland Nomads, so that changed from sample card to final production. So let's hold that aside really quick there, and then I'm going to go, this is one of the Alpha pre-constructed air deck, right? So that's what you guys are going to see from Alpha Fulfillment. And then I have a couple cards. We got one spell card, and then we'll look at an Atlas card, right? So let's compare the Alpha Precon, and you see all the region names were removed. And Eric had mentioned in Discord that might be something he changes as the game evolves and names evolves. He might put the new regions there. It sounds like maybe he just opted to genericize that and remove the regions, which will afford him presumably more creative freedom to take the game in whatever direction he needs to for Arthurian Legends, future sets, whatever may have you, right? So there they are side by side. On the left here, from my vantage point, this one was the Alpha Precon deck, and this one was the sample card, right? So the sample card has the regions on the back of the Atlas site. And then in the Alpha Precons, no regions. Very fascinating, right? So you have quite a story there about the evolution of change. And put that one aside, sleeve this guy back up. The orange sleeve is coming across a little yellow on camera and under intense lighting here. This was to differentiate that these were from the Precon sample decks, right? So I still have some of those left. The others were from the silver sample packs. And there you have it, guys. This was the other from the Alpha Precon. Sorcery Contested Realm. evolved from Sorcery, A Realm at War. And that's it. So I think I'll do a series of these. You know, you can do like playlists in YouTube. So I think I'll collate these thematic evolutions of videos so you guys can just storm through and try to capture this history as best as possible. But collectorarthouse.com is a great resource. I have a lot of videos talking about the historical development of the game, and it's just really fascinating to capture this, and I appreciate your guys' interest. Take care, and stay tuned for some more videos for Alpha Precon deck openings. There's 2 more to go, so look for that soon. Take care, everybody. Have a great weekend.